Hello there and warm welcome to the home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Tonight on Joy News Prime, government assures no one will be left out in the rollout of the coronavirus vaccination program as Ghana prepares to begin a phased inoculation of citizens on 2nd March 2021.
That Gavi is supporting through the COVAX window by giving 20% of our populations free vaccines. And I'm glad that Ghana has come to take delivery first in the world.
And fresh details emerging reveal the Ghana Airport Company Limited is allegedly being shortchanged by Frontiers Healthcare Services, which was contracted by government to conduct COVID testing at the Kotoka International Airport. Sources close to the Airport Company Limited say they are only receiving $4 instead of $10 per test. Office in Accra following uproar against gay rights. We'll be hearing from the landlord and traditional rulers of the area who say they cannot allow LGBT activities in their community.
People were bent on, causing mayhem because we don't want this kind of activities in our area at all.
Coming up later in business, Securities and Exchange Commission warns the public against dealing with Finland-based company Wisling Online Investment.
We are of the view that the scheme operates as a Ponzi scheme, given very high returns, and have therefore issued a warning to the public to be careful of approaching such an investment scheme to dedicate their funds to such entities.
These and many more coming up in the next 2 hours with me, Gifty Ando Apia. You're welcome. I'll take you through the details of those stories. Now, lawyers for 2020 NDC presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama say they have successfully proven that no candidate obtained more than 50% of the vote cast in the 2020 presidential elections. They are therefore urging the Supreme Court to direct the Electoral Commission to organize a runoff between President Akufo-Addo and Mr. Mahama when it delivers judgment on 4th of March. This is contained in the written closing address filed by Mr. Mahama's lawyers. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
3 witnesses testified in support of Mr. Mahama's petition. Johnson Asiedu Nketia.
Nobody knows the results of the presidential elections in 2020.
Dr. Michael Pesa-White.
As at the time we were instructed to go and have deliberations with the petitioner in that room, we had come nowhere close to knowing who had won and who had lost.
And Roger Metunu
has more to do with a trend of anomalies, several anomalies.
Mr. Mahama's lawyers filed a document asking that the EC chairperson admits to certain facts. This includes the claim that the EC announced President Akufo-Addo as obtaining 6.7 million votes out of a total valid votes of 13.4 million. They say failure of the EC to admit to this and lead evidence to show contrary figures means Nana Akufo-Addo did not obtain more than 50% of the valid votes cast. This, they insist, created a situation where the petitioner did not have to bring figures to prove what is obvious. They further contend that the EC has not lawfully corrected the results as declared, hence the court should direct a runoff takes place since the lawful declaration of December 9 means no one won the election. President Akufo-Addo's lawyers disagree. They say the petition actually proves that Nana Akufo-Addo met the constitutional requirement of obtaining more than 50% of the valid votes cast. Reference is made to the cross-examination of NDC General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia by lead counsel for the president, Mr. Akoto Ampao.
I'm putting it to you that whether it is the EC's calculation or your calculation, definitely second respondent crossed the threshold.
If we are going by the data supplied by EC.
Yes.
They say this admission shows that the petitioner has made much ado about nothing of the fact that in announcing the total valid votes cast, the chairperson of the EC stated a wrong figure of 13.4 million. They conclude this petition is an industry in futility. It has been designed, built and furnished with a lazy labor of facts and evidence that seek to attack the electoral choices of the people of Ghana. End quote.
Tonight, government is giving assurances that no one will be left out in the rollout of the coronavirus vaccination program as Ghana prepares to begin a phased inoculation of citizens on the 2nd of March this year. This assurance follows the arrival of some 600,000 doses of the Indian-made AstraZeneca vaccine procured under the COVAX facility. The jabs, which arrived in the country early today, make up the first batch of free vaccines being provided for 20% of Ghana's population. Manuel Kranting of our health desk has more in this report.
Over 80,000 confirmed coronavirus cases in Ghana. The arrival of the first batch of vaccines procured under the COVAX facility signals what could become the beginning of a decline in infections as observed in countries like Israel, which is far advanced in the vaccine rollout exercise. Within the African region, Ghana is the first country to take delivery of the AstraZeneca jabs produced by the Serum Institute of India. This follows an emergency use authorization given by the Food and Drugs Authority for the AstraZeneca and Russia's Sputnik V jabs. The first tranche of 600,000 doses delivered on Wednesday morning will be deployed under a staggered arrangement which will focus on frontline health workers, adults of 60 years and above, people with underlying health conditions, frontline executive, legislature, judiciary and their related staff, and frontline security personnel. Other priority groups include some religious leaders, essential workers, teachers and other personalities within Greater Accra Metro and Ewutu Senya areas in the central region. A statement by the Ministry of Information also noted that a similar segmented population in the Greater Kumasi Metro and Obuasi municipality will also be covered. Receiving the consignment on behalf of government, Minister-designate for Health, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, assured that no one will be left behind in the rollout of the vaccine.
And I'm glad that Ghana has come to take delivery first in the world from the COVAX facility. Partly depends more on our president's initiative, his networking and his hard work. But I must say that Ghana is opportuned. The health minister in Ghana sits on the Gavi board, and so inside we know what is happening, and our hard work has yielded results.
He also stressed that the arrival of the vaccines was an indication of government's commitment to combating the virus.
Gavi continues to raise funds across the globe to support the initiative, and I believe no one on earth will be left behind in this vaccination effort. Ghana, we are not lucky to have received the first 600,000 doses with syringes and safety boxes. We're going to apply them the way our plan is. We had to submit and meet requirements even for COVAX. Our vaccine development plan, we have done our deployment plan. All these have been approved by our president to go. And the next few days, we'll begin rolling out our vaccination.
The 600,000 doses represent part of the first wave of COVID-19 vaccines headed to several low and middle income countries. For Joy News, Manuel Kranting.
Now, the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Anthony Adofo-Ofosu, has advised health workers not to succumb to any form of pressure to divert the COVID-19 vaccines. He urged them to ensure only persons in the targeted groups are administered with the vaccines as the first phase of COVID-19 mass immunization exercise begins first week of March. Speaking at the 2021 peer review of the Volta Regional Directorate of the Ghana Health Services in Ho, he warned that officials caught diverting the vaccines will be dealt with severely.
And on the vaccines, once it has arrived in country, the rollout plans will be done and all the directions set on it will be circulated to the region. What I will entreat is that let's stick to the targets as set out, because there are phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Let's stick to that target. The tendency for people to try to influence these will be high, very high, but let's show integrity in the work that we do as health workers and ensure that we do not turn it into something that will tarnish the image of the service. Already questions are being asked Now, how will you ensure that this free vaccine, people will indeed get it for free? So on this note, I sound a caution to every health worker. Don't get caught collecting money to give this vaccine, because it will not be good for you at all. It will not be good for you at all. So don't even think of it or dream about it in your wildest imagination. You see, as a person, there should be lines you should not cross. As a person, you should have your own boundaries, that these lines I don't cross. So please, let this be one of the lines you will not cross. That with this COVID-19 vaccine, no matter the money that is offered, you would take. You would take to divert vaccine. Because the pressure will be very high. Because some people will try to jump the key. So let's be very careful as the vaccine comes.
Away from the hospitals, but still on vaccines. Fresh details emerging review. The Ghana Airport Company Limited is allegedly being shortchanged by Frontiers Healthcare Services, which was contracted by government to conduct COVID-19 testing at the Kotoka International Airport. Documents cited by Joy News show the company agreed to pay Ghana Airport Company Limited $10 per test. But sources close to the company, Airport Company Limited, say they are only receiving $4. This, they say, violates the contract agreement. Before we get into that, Transport Minister Designate Kweku Asiamah told Parliament Appointments Committee yesterday the Frontier Healthcare Services was only granted space by the Ghana Airport Company to undertake its duties. He added that he is unable to say more about the testing carried out by the entity.
Ghana Airport Company wrote to PPA, and on 26th of August 2020, the headlines read re-approval to rent office space at Terminal 3 Company to test for COVID-19. Mr. Chairman, the letter reads, we acknowledge the receipt of your letter reference GL 1256946 dated August 25th, 2020 on the above subject matter and have digested its contents. However, we advise that the rental of office space, and in this particular case, being rented out to another company falls outside the scope of the Public Procurement Act at 663 as amended. The Ghana Airport Company is therefore requested to use administrative procedures to execute this transaction. We count on your cooperation. The Managing Director, Ghana Airport Company Limited.
You are suggesting to this committee that the contract to which the deputy leader asked you, and you said, yes, you have cited it, the contract is about renting of office space and nothing more. Am I correct in suggesting that?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Chairman, that is so.
So what more do we know about this subject? My colleague Winston Amwa is joining me on the line with some details. Winston, what more can you tell us about this amount that was agreed upon between the airport company and Frontiers Healthcare Services?
Well, Gifty, so if you look at the fees as agreed by between the Ghana Airport Company Limited and Frontiers Healthcare Services, Frontiers is expected to pay the Ghana Airport Company Limited $10 per test conducted. Now, our source of the Ghana Airport Company Limited tells us that currently the Ghana Airport Company Limited is paid $4, Port Health is paid $3, and the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority also paid $3. And so the $10, as we see in the contract, that's paragraph 4.2 in the contract, all isn't going to the Ghana Airport Company Limited, but is also going to the Port Health as well as the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority.
Let's talk about the Food and Drugs Authority's role in this. Yesterday, we heard the minister say a little bit about it. Did they authorize the activities, or to what extent did they authorize the activities of the Frontiers Healthcare Service?
So according to a letter that I have seen from the Food and Drugs Authority on the 24th of August 2020, the Ghana Airport Company Limited wrote to the Food and Drugs Authority seeking authorization for the usage of some testing equipment were arriving in August. The Food and Drugs Authority says some equipment have been certified by the Food and Drugs Authority in PERS to Section 118 of the Public Health Act 851. Now, it talks about a local agent, which is Healthcare Solutions Limited. Now, the Healthcare Solutions Services Limited is actually the company that owns Frontiers. Okay? So that company was incorporated on the 3rd of June 2020 and was certified by the Food and Drugs Authority on the 1st of July 2020 to use these equipments that a Ghana Airport Company was asking the Food and Drugs Authority to certify for the usage of testing for COVID-19 gifting.
Speaking of which, and dates, Winston, we know that the contract was signed, according to the minister, on the 1st of September. But it also emerged yesterday that the operations of this company actually also started on the same day.
Yes, because we opened our airports to international travels on the 1st of September. And the contract which I have in front of me talks about an agreement between the Ghana Airports Company Limited and Frontiers Healthcare Service Limited for the provision of COVID-19 testing service at the Upper Arrival Terminal 3, Kotoka International Airport, and is dated 1st September 2020.
Let's talk a little bit about this very thorny issue about how much they were charging. Does the contract specify how much was supposed to be charged for the antigen testing?
I haven't seen that in the contract. Nowhere in the contract is it stated how much is expected to be charged. What I have seen in the contract is how much is expected to be given to the Ghana Airport Company Limited. What I have also seen in the contract is the rent charge of $153,000 to be paid the Ghana Airport Company Limited annually as rent charges for the usage of their facility for the testing services.
So it was solely about the renting of space for the testing. Does it say what time length given?
Well, so the contract is valid for 2 years. Starts from 1st September 2020 to 2022, Gifty.
Well, thank you very much, Winston, for that. Winston Amwa is my colleague there, taking us through the Frontiers Healthcare Services Company's contract with the Ghana Airport Company Limited. The minority spokesperson on health, Kwabena Minta Akando, is joining us on the line right now. Ms. Akando, thank you for your time. Good evening. Can you speak up for me, sir?
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
I do hear you. Thank you for your time. Were you satisfied, or may I ask, to what extent were you satisfied with the details provided by the Transport Minister designate when it comes to the Frontiers Healthcare Services contract? Indeed, he was one of the people that all the others who came said had the information we were asking for.
I think the man did more harm than good. I think he even worsened and created a lot of confusion around the whole issues. To start with, if you remember, and if you could even Google, we had a press conference on this particular issue as far back in October 2020, if you recall, and we raised legitimate issues in our press conference. And none of the issues that have been raised so far has been given any attention or any answer. Number one, what are some of the issues we were raising? And before I even go to the issues, you realize that all the cabinet ministers who have been reappointed, when they appeared before the appointment committee, it was becoming embarrassing because almost all of them didn't know anything about this particular contract. You know, the president had already announced that this particular fight against COVID-19 was going to be treated as multi-sectorial. And so it was not going to be only one ministry dealing with it. So one would expect that, look, if issues are taken at that level, or even if issues are taken at cabinet, any minister who is part of it must know at least something about that particular activity. But unfortunately, it turned out that a lot of them didn't know anything about this particular contract. Number two, when the minister designate for transport appeared before the appointment committee, what did he say? And what are the issues? Number one, we raised issues about whether or not they followed the legal processes in fixing fees. What is the fee? The fee or the charge was around $150 per test. Of course. Hello?
I'm here.
Okay. So we all know that in other jurisdictions, they are even charging the same antigen test, they are charging less than $150. Others are doing as low as $7 and $8. So the question is, what criteria arrived at that $150 per test? The minister designated responsible for transport couldn't answer that question. They were even asking him about the directors of the company. He says he cannot answer. They were asking, and he even drew our attention to one very serious issue, that a contract was signed on the 1st of September 2020. And it was that same day that the Kotoka International Airport was reopened, and a lot of issues. Even it came to light that they had no track record when it comes to issues of health.
But Mr. Kando, let me just jump in there a bit. Talking about the day they started work, we all know that we're dealing with an emergency. And this is something that all the ministers designates have said over and over again, that we were looking for solutions. This company approached this country and said, we have this solution to help you. You will go for it, won't you, in an emergency?
You see, there are a lot of issues. When they even closed down, they closed Kotoka International Airport around March, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So from March to September, you think that they couldn't have done anything about it. They should wait until the very day they were reopening the airport that they could go and sign contract. Look, what prevented government from buying the equipment for Noguchi to undertake this particular exercise? As far as testing is concerned, you and I know very well that when it comes to testing, the name that will ring a bell in your mind or in your head is Noguchi.
You spoke for the minority on health. Now, there was an issue about how much the Ghana Airport Company was taking. Apparently, the contract states $10, but the company was actually getting $4. Did you know about this, and what did you do?
Well, these are all issues we raised, and up to now, nobody is responding to those issues. And even at the appointment committee, you will recall that when they were even putting it to him, that as far as our information is concerned, it's about $4 or $5 was going to Ghana Airport Committee. He says, as far as it's concerned, per the document, it's $10 that he knows.
Okay.
He couldn't even answer that question, and I don't know if you followed the
conversation. Well, Mr. Kando, I say very big thanks to you for your time. I appreciate it. Kobna Mensah Kando there speaks for the minority on health in Parliament. Let's speak to an anti-graft campaigner, Vitus Azim. Ms. Azim, good evening and many thanks for your time. Why are you asking for the Frontiers Healthcare Services contract to be probed? Ms. Azim? Okay, Ms. Azim, I don't know if you can hear me. If you do, can you give us an answer? It looks like I'm having a bit of an issue there with Vitus Azim. If we do raise him back, we'll go to him. But let me tell you about other stories. Now, Ghana police in Kwabena raided a house in Ashongman believed to be the office of gay rights activist LGBT Rights Ghana. Government has in the last few days come under intense pressure from religious and some pressure groups to shut down the said office after social media photos showing a fundraising event had been organized by the group at what was described as a community space. Joine's editor Fred Smith was there, now reports.
This 5-bedroom apartment, located on the hills of Ashongman here in Accra, has been the subject of controversy on mainstream and social media for days after photos of an LGBT fundraiser event there popped up on Sunday. It has, among others, beds, sofas, and gay magazines. Following the raid, members of the group went on social media and asked all human rights organizations and allies to speak out against what they described as an attack. The post reads as follows.
This morning, our office was raided by national security. Few days ago, traditional leaders threatened to burn down our office, but the police did not help. At this moment, we no longer have access to our safe space, and our safety is being threatened. We call on all human rights organizations and allies to speak out against.
But following viral videos on social media of LGBT activities taking place in the capital, Accra, the police, in the company of the landlord, have decided to visit this facility where it's alleged that an LGBT event took place a few days ago, and to ascertain for themselves if the claims were true. Indeed, the landlord, in the company of police officers, came here. There were men who were in the facility. The police tell me about 2 of them were in the facility initially. When the landlord started knocking, there was no response from those who were in, and after a while they realized that those people in here had taken to their heels and scaled the wall. The other rooms we've not been able to access yet. The police have so far secured the facility and intend to break into the other rooms and investigate what may have been kept over there. It is exactly the site which landlord Dr. Asenso Jan Bibi says violates the agreement signed with the tenant.
He got the house. I have not met him personally. It was through the agent. I called him and asked him, what work do you do? He says, oh, they are an NGO, promoting health. He said, from where? He says, oh, their funding is from Sweden. I said, okay. So in the midst of COVID, it was agreeable. But I told him not to touch anything without my permission, not to change any painting, no fixtures, and that is embedded in the tenancy agreement. So when I got the information and he was trying to be dodgy and he realized I was getting angry, he said, oh, we promote the health of this LGBT whatever. And I said, well, come on, what do you mean? Then I told him, end there. I'm moving from Kumasi to Accra right now. So yesterday, 1 o'clock, I set off. And I called National Security. I called the police commander for Kwabena. And I got to Kumasi around 7. So they said it was too late this morning. We are going to have this operation.
The traditional rulers of Kwabena, who oversee Ashongman, disgusted about the use to which the facility has been put. Ni Ayitaki speaks for the Kwabena Traditional Authority.
We had to follow up to this place because there are some people were bent on, causing mayhem because we don't want this kind of activities in our area at all. This authority, this area, actually we have so many divine issues here. We have churches, we have all that. We have children that is coming up. And then we also have an issues that we are grappling with. And then all this while, then these people to have to come in with their various activities.
As investigations begin, police say they will scan the facility for evidence of LGBT activities. In the meantime, police will maintain a 24-hour presence there until all evidence have been obtained. Fred Smith, Ashongman.
The acting country director of Amnesty International, Frank Doi, is joining me. Mr. Doi, thank you. What are your thoughts, first of all, about the shutdown of these offices?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Amnesty International, as a human rights organization, is very clear in terms of what we promote, what we protect, and what we endeavor to help fulfill. So our work is focused solely on the impartial protection of fundamental human rights and freedoms, so that if an individual or a group of persons are found to be engaging in an act of criminality in any facility at all, they will respect the right thing to be done, which is for the law to take its course. In this particular instance, what we have heard is that the facility was invaded based on the assumption or the allegation that there are some individuals in the facility who are engaging in certain activities that are in violation of our laws. Our concern is that the rights of Ghanaians to privacy and property is guaranteed by the Constitution. Article 18 clearly spells out every Ghanaian's right to privacy and property, so that if for some reason a facility is to be invaded by law enforcement agencies, the question we would ask is, what is the procedure provided in our laws? If it has to do with the individuals renting a facility for use, and it appears to the landlord, or it seems to the landlord that the facility is not being used for the intended purpose, it's clearly provided in our Rent Control Act, as to what should be done in order to reclaim or recover that facility. But the circumstances under which the facility was invaded is what we consider to be a clear violation of the very laws that we all seek to uphold. It is important to make this very point that Amnesty International recognizes that issues about LGBT, QI and all that are very sensitive, very controversial issues. And so we always want people to understand our position, that Amnesty International as a human rights organization does not endorse or support any act of criminality. But then when the rights of individuals are clearly violated, then that becomes a serious issue of concern to us. The question we have to ask again is whether or not the individuals who were found in that particular facility were seen engaging in any act of criminality. If they were not, then clearly it's an issue of the security agencies engaging in an act that is not supported by our laws. But if they were found to be engaging in any act, that contravenes our laws, then we would expect that the right thing be done, which is that due process of the law must be followed.
But then let me ask about the fact that they bolted, according to the police, when they got there. The question that the logical question that people will ask is, if you know that you're not doing anything wrong, why do you resist arrest, for example, or just escape from being interrogated? Because we were not told that they were going to be arrested or anything. The police approaches them and then they run away. The presupposition here is that you're doing something wrong.
Okay, so that is a presumption or an assumption.
Yeah.
Okay, so that if the police invaded the facility, maybe the manner in which they invaded the facility might have been, the reason why the people in the facility bolted. It may not necessarily be because they were engaging in any act of criminality, but if they were, then we would expect the police, for example, to follow, the due process of law, and in ensuring that, the right thing is done.
Okay.
I'm saying this within the provision of the Rent Control Act, which also clearly spells out the processes and procedures by which a particular facility can be recovered.
I think that's sorry to jump in.
Was not followed.
Sorry to jump in, Mr. Doye. I think that's a point that you have made earlier, because I need to wrap up quickly. I just have a quick one about the landlord's position is that the property was rented to be used for a health NGO, but he when they went into the premises, what they see are LGBT magazines and beds. Does that strike you in any way?
Well, it does to some extent, to the extent that the landlord wanted to recover his facility. One would have expected the landlord to follow the provision in the law. Of course, not holding anything against him as the owner of the property, but we are concerned that in an attempt to do what is seemingly right, in the eyes of the landlord or by the security agencies, our own laws are also being violated.
Okay.
But because remember, there are laws clearly states that, even an accused person must be presumed innocent,
right.
Innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of jurisdiction. So what that we are saying is that whatever it is that we want to do as individuals or as law enforcement agencies, it is important that we all follow the laws that we have laid out, because Ghana has laws, and those laws must be respected, irrespective of the individual or individuals involved.
Mr. Doye, I'll say very big thanks to you. Sorry for that rushed up there. We need to take a quick break here. Frank,
thank you.
Frank Doyi is the acting country director of Amnesty International. This is Joy News Prime. I am Gifty Andopia. I'm right back after this.
Hello there, welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. The Securities and Exchange Commission is warning the public against dealing with a Finland-based company, Westlink Online Investment. Now, according to the capital market regulator, the firm is not licensed and its operations can be likened to a Ponzi scheme. It is therefore advising the public to first check from its website firms licensed by the regulator before going ahead to do business with any of these firms. Paul Abebio is the Deputy Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And that was a public alert issued by SEC regarding the Westlink investment under Finland. We shall be following this story to give you updates as and when we do have them. But away from that, countries under the Continental Free Trade Agreement that impede trading of goods will be sanctioned by the African Union. This is to ensure that all states are treated fairly under the deal, which has been described as the second largest in the world. Technical advisor at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Anthony Befi, disclosed this at a virtual sensitization seminar organized by the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Here's a report.
Following the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, many entrepreneurs are anticipating challenges with other countries with regards to tariff adjustment on goods and services. Addressing members of the business community at a sensitization seminar organized by the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industries in partnership with Joy Business, technical advisor at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Anthony Befi, assured that all the necessary measures have been put in place to sanction defaulting countries.
On dispute settlement, now the member states have also agreed on the working procedures for the dispute settlement. They have come out with the expert review and then the codes of conduct for the panel members, the appellate bodies and what have you, who will see to the implementation of that agreement.
Senior partner at AB and David Ofosu-Dorte, urged businesses to use the agreement as a stepping stone to establish their presence on the African continent.
Current visibility of your product is part of the things to be considered in terms of fitting into the strategy. Because if your product is not visible, then nobody can buy it. And therefore, strategies to make your product visible, and these days, online means like Instagram, etc., are all common means that people manage to reach other. And I've had occasion to give examples like Kente, which is very, very popular demand in many South African, Southern African countries. As an example, it's already visible, and depending on the market that you are in.
Speaking to Joy Business on a trade impasse between Ghana and Benin, Deputy Commissioner of Customs, Fetchin Akoto, advised businesses to make a good choice considering the free trade agreement rather than the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme.
We don't get the processes very clearly to distinguish between them. It's rather giving us more opportunities. What it means is you weigh the two agreements. You look at whichever is acceptable or suitable to you. You go for that one. If the ECOWAS ETLS is acceptable or more flexible for you, you go for it. If the AFTA rules are more flexible, you go for it. It means the options are open to you.
The program was themed AFCFTA adopting the right business strategies to fully benefit.
Well, the international trade expert and senior partner at AB and David Ofosu-Dorte, has charged the private sector to formalize their business strategies to fall in line with government policies or lose out on the benefits of the Continental Free Trade Agreement area. According to him, the implementation of the single market leaves no room for informal operations for state parties, including Ghana, hence the need for a proper alignment with government policies.
Reason why, notwithstanding the fact that AU has done many things after a loan has attracted so much interest, is because for the first time, this is something that involves the private sector, because it is the private sector which trade, and not the heads of states who meet once or twice a year at the summit or the extraordinary summit. So much as they have created this opportunity, it moves to the private sector, and that is why no doubt the private sector has shown so much interest in it. So if you are talking about strategy, we need to look at it from that point of view, from a private sector strategy perspective and not a public sector strategy perspective. So let me look at what other things that we may need to take into account when we are looking at strategy, because strategy cannot be focused on one item, even though that one item, such as AFTA, may be the main trigger for the development of other strategies. So if we take Ghana as an example, 1D1F, which has been a key policy of the government, has been ongoing for a while, and that impacts on your ability to add value, assuming you are taking advantage of 1D1F as an example. It also remains a fact that as you are developing your strategy, because AFTA is a larger market and brings Africa together, other companies of similar nature in other countries are developing their strategy, and other countries are developing their strategy. So you have to look at all the number of things that affect your strategy.
And that'll be all for business for this segment. Sports is up next.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime Time to bring you sports. My name is Hans Mensando, and we begin from the Ghana Premier League. Let's check out the results so far in the games played today. Of course, Legon City's Day were leading 2-0. Game still ongoing, we understand. But the Diana Stars, they beat Interlights by 2-1. Mediama also beating 11 Wonders by 2-0. And Dwarfs also beating Ken Faisal by goals. Liberty losing to Accra Hearts of Oak, and Wafa as well beating Karela by 3 goals. So of course, Wafa, they simply will not lose at Sogakop, and Legon City is beating Aluminium Sharks also by 2-0. And of course, there is a UEFA Champions League action tonight, and quickly take a look at the fixtures as well. Atalanta, they're playing against Zinedine Zidane's Real Madrid, and Borussia Mönchengladbach are up against Premier League leaders Manchester City. Let's do some golf, and Ghana's #1 Vincent Toga has won the Insuta Golf Club President's Cup as he prepares to represent Ghana in Nigeria. He held at the Insuta Golf Course to honor the birthday of the president annually. The competition brought together a total of 34 players made up of 6 professionals and 28 amateurs. Vincent, who beat the second position with 13 shots, says it was a good exercise for the tournament next month in Nigeria. My colleague Kelvin Oswansa has more in the following report.
After the 2-day tournament, James Akwabwa won the men division with a net score of 141. While the founder and the president came second with 143. Followed closely was Yawanefi with 148. Ruth Men won the ladies' event with 167 scores, beating Monica Akakpo with 178. Vincent Toga with 137 scores won the professionals, Prince Amponsa came second with 149 and Jojo Say came third with 165. The three pros took home a total of $500. The tournament was in honor of the president of the Insuta Golf Club, Sheikh Salif Taylor. Mr. Salif Taylor believes involving the professionals will encourage the amateur players.
So it's just about golf to honor our birthday and also the birthday. So today I came second, but I'm happy to be second because I promise you that next year I'll take the title back.
Captain of the Insuta Golf Club, Alexander Bewong, says such tournaments are critical to grow the game of golf.
And it has come to stay. And we know that we did that last year and we're doing it today. Once this is done, next year it will happen. It's going to happen every other day. Just to encourage golfers. And golf is about exercising, keeping fit, and it's your health. And even in this COVID time, doctors advise that we need to exercise and do a lot of walking.
Vincent Toga says the tournament was critical to prepare him for his invitational tournament in Nigeria.
Well, I would say it wasn't simple. They played their best, and we all did our best. I think I took my chances earlier on, and they were a bit struggling, so that was why the gap was big. But besides that, they played very well. I'm happy that I played with such a wonderful, good players. It's a preparation for me for my tournament coming up in Nigeria, the Bayelsa Governance Cup, which I'm being invited to come and participate in the tournament. So I want to honor that tournament and represent Ghana in Bayelsa in Nigeria as well. So it's a tournament I'm looking forward to show at least to improve my game a bit before I get to the European circle.
Meanwhile, the best scores for the first and second days went to James Akwabwa and Issa Salif Taylor. Meanwhile, the best scores for the first and second days went to James Akwabwa and Issa Salif Taylor respectively. The tournament, according to Saliki Issa Salif Taylor, will be an annual cup to honor the president's birthday.
This installment will bring you more later in the bulletin. For viewers in Joy Prime, that's it, the news continues here on the Joy News channel.
What we hope to bring you in showbiz. Becky is here.
Hello to you.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Jackie's in the news.
Okay, I was just going to say, since you've had a good day, is it because Jackie is in the news?
Well, it's because she's in the news. It's been like less than a year.
Okay.
You know, in the industry, in the music industry.
So why is she?
And she's all over the place. Her Forever song is all over the place, topping charts. So we decided to put spotlight on Jackie today.
All right.
Congratulations to Jackie there.
Yeah, I mean, it takes people time to get this far,
yeah.
Right?
She's blessed.
She is. That's Nana Champon's daughter. Oh, yes. Interesting. Nana.
Getty, are you, have you seen Coming to America?
I have.
So are you are you looking forward to the Coming to America too?
Yes.
Yes, me too. It will come out March 5, just next month.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's my birthday. I mean, like, how are they renting the date or something?
I'll take you to the movies. Oh, it's closed, so we'll just watch it in our house. But blogger Amayal spoke to Wesley Snipes. He is an American film, actor. He's a producer as well. If you don't know him, he acted in the movie The Blade. I'm not sure.
I know him.
For those of you.
I know him.
Yeah, so...
Black guy with a thick mouth.
I tell you. And he is very excited that he's part of this movie, Coming to America too.
Okay.
And he shares his, moments back to America.
That's definitely something you want to see. And you are definitely seeing it on my birthday.
Oh, yes. It's your birthday. Happy birthday in advance.
Yes, hold on to it. I'll take it on 5th.
Okay, please.
So that's a very interesting movie. I'm looking forward to see what next is in showbiz tonight.
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah,
I wanted more of you.
You don't want me to leave? Let me sing for you or something.
Well, that's Becky. She's a good girl, I must say.
Thank you.
Yesterday she had some feedback. So. News Prime, my name is Gifty Andopia. We continue with the news now. Minister-designate for Railways, John Peter Amewu, has defended the cancellation of a power purchase agreement with GCGP, which landed the country with a 130 million cedi judgment debt. Peter Amewu, who served as energy minister in the previous government, noted that although he was not the one who cancelled the power purchase agreement, he believes his predecessor who did so might have done so based on the advice from energy experts in the ministry. He was answering questions from members of the Parliament's Appointments Committee. Ghana has been hit with a $134 million judgment debt over the cancellation of emergency power agreement with the GCGP Limited. The International Court of Arbitration, in its ruling on the matter put before it in 2019, also said the judgment debt comes with a $30 million interest payment obligation. The contract signed in 2015 under the erstwhile John Mahama administration was among those cancelled by former Energy Minister Boakye Ejiakor, with the reason that they were not needed and were only going to further lead to the ballooning of Ghana's debt in the energy sector. Listen to John Peter Amewu answering questions on this.
The Power Ministry at that time, before 2016, commenced a process of rationalization of the energy sector, which of course was a very wonderful idea to see how the energy sector will be well planned so that we do not have more power in terms of generations of more additional powers. So that process continued into 2017 to look at those power that are coming up, the new IPPs that are coming up. In the recommendations from the AG office, a number of them has been lifted. Mr. Chairman, I had a report here with me stating the various power plants and what should be done by them as a recommendation from the AG. The AG prioritized a lot of the power plants because at that time some of them were supposed to come into commercial operations by the year 2019-2020. So these power plants were prioritized into various sectors. Those that need to be cancelled, those that need to be shifted, and those that can wait after the time that the country would need power. GCGP as a power plant, under the analysis and report from the Attorney General's office, of course, was classified under those power plants that need to be terminated. They were classified basically because there were certain conditions precedent they were expected to meet at the time of construction. For instance, they've not been granted permits. Ghana government was expected to undertake some rules work that, of course, the government had not done and waiting for it to be done. The company itself was expected, for instance, under Section 4G of the agreement, provides the buyer the necessary means to start the construction of the physical infrastructure. So all these things were done ahead without meeting some of the necessary conditions that were precedent to trigger the construction.
The former Minister for Land and Natural Resources also said that he was unaware that some seized excavators in the fight against Galamsey have gone missing.
I put it on record that while I was a Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, I have not seized any excavator. What I did when I was a minister was to ask for withdrawals of excavators from mining sites. And at that period, about 500 excavators were withdrawn from the mining sites, but they were not seized. Because the methodology to seize excavators, it's a process through the AG's office. The minister unilaterally cannot seize excavators. So my order was for withdrawal of excavators from the mining site. And I did remember that that withdrawal date has been extended for another 3 months because at that point in time we realized that excavators, though withdrawn from the mining site, some were still. So these were some of the processes that we put in place to undertake. Yes, of course, the interministerial committee which came to handle the situation was a good innovation by His Excellency the President. I did say that we are going to procure a number of drones at the cost of 30 billion cedis. These drones are high-tech drones. They are not the normal drones that we see flying, in Accra.
John Peter Amewu there. He's also advocating funding for railway projects should be seen as a social product so that domestic funding can be used for those projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, of course, railway is very capital expensive. A kilometer of railway runs between $6 to $7 million, far in excess of what the road sector currently witness. In the midst of this COVID, global fund, it's very limited. But Mr. Chairman, I'm praying that now that we've got a vaccine, we will begin to see the reductions of the COVID and the world will gradually begin to move in its normal way. We will proceed with looking for funding, no matter the difficulty, because our capital within the country itself, in terms of the resources, are very limited, and therefore it's going to be difficult to rely on government funding of railway projects. So we'll explore other avenues. I appreciate your concern, about the difficulty of global funds. Notwithstanding that, we'll still explore the avenue to see how we can attract that. The second one is, as I think I've stated it earlier, the government must also make efforts to continue to look at the railway sector as a social product, just as we do, for the roads. If we put that attention, which of course I know His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will do, if you listen carefully to his inaugural address, with the attention that he wants to put on the railway sector, then parallel along external funding and domestic funding, we should be able to speed up most of this construction and put it in a state that Ghanaians will benefit.
That designates for Railways Development John Peter Amewu. For over 30 years, her life has been made meaningless because of a medical condition. This condition, known as obstetric fistula, makes her leak urine uncontrollably, thus subjecting her to ridicule in her community. In the following report, Joy News' Beryl Ernestina Richter traveled to the Pungu district area in the Kasina Nankana municipality of the Upper East region here in Ghana and tells the story of 84-year-old Afrabadaga Atiru, who is not only battling obstetric fistula, but has also been brutally battered by the COVID-19 pandemic. 84-year-old Afrabadaga Atiru is a widow who lives in Pungu in the Upper East region of Ghana. Afrabadaga has been living with obstetric fistula for more than 4 decades. She curses the day COVID-19 emerged.
Sometimes I am tempted to believe COVID-19 is not real. I hear it is not real. Suddenly, it has also come to it is really real because
she has lost all her 5 children. It was during her last birth that she developed the fistula, which has made her life a living hell. She ekes out a living, farming, even at her old age, and is not able to produce enough to feed herself.
I have a granite farm, but I have not been able to start cultivation on it because I feel weak. And to get laborers to work on it for me, I need money. So for now, anytime I feel fine, I try to work on the farm by uprooting the weeds. I don't have any relatives too who can help me. There's a white man here who sometimes helps the poor. It is from him I sometimes get money to buy food. Otherwise, there's no one to help me.
She depends on neighbors who sometimes give her food. Afrabadaga sleeps in a small room built for her by a good Samaritan. Her bed is the bare floor or bare wooden bench after her sleeping mat became tarted. She has never owned a mattress.
The clothes, you can see, there are only 2 clothes, this one and then. So this is how she sleeps in the night. Then then when her ribs are failing her, she'll put the mat on the floor. And you know the floor too is hard. Because it's not cement. So because the floor is hard and the dust, when she breathes, she breathes in the dust. So that, you know, the mat is weak. So when she like, and there's nothing for her to put on top, like a blanket. She doesn't have a pillow or anything. No, right. So she just managed herself. She just managed herself. She cooks here. Even the charcoal, it's a problem. You can see the Kita voice. It's just the Kita school voice. Yeah, that's Kita school, and that's even the what they call it, the head. You can see.
She does everything on her own, from cooking to washing her clothes. Afarabadaga has never had the opportunity to undergo fistula surgery. For Afarabadaga, despite her helpless situation, she remains grateful and optimistic.
84-year-old Afarabadaga Atiru, singing her heart out, thanking God for bringing her this far. Despite the situation, she still remains positive and she's grateful to God.
For a condition that is almost entirely preventable, its persistence is a sign of global inequality and an indication that health systems are failing to protect the health and human rights of the poorest and most vulnerable, women and girls. Beryl Ernestina Richter's report for Joy News. That's the most optimistic person living with obstetric fistula there. The almost 4,000 residents of Bongwini near Nalerugu in the northeast region are on the verge of a full-blown water crisis, as the only dam serving the people in dry season has yet to be fixed after it was damaged following a botched attempt to reconstruct and turn it into government's One Village, One Dam initiative. Following the collapse of the dam, a contract was awarded to the Northern Development Authority to provide a mechanized borehole facility in the community. But the residents say the NDA contractors abandoned the project immediately after the general elections and have since not returned. Residents are appealing to the Northern Development Authority to now resume and complete an abandoned water supply project after it is dried up and as a source of water for the people in the community. Joy News' correspondent Eliaso Tanko has more in this report.
Across the northeast region, communities are running out of water. This is a region with enough water for most part of the year, yet not enough for the people. Communities here are well aware of the limitations imposed by the combination of flooding in the rainy months and water scarcity in the dry season.
Pipes are not many, and we the people, we are more than it. If we have gotten some, I'm happy it will also help us. We've been here for a long time before the morning prayers, and every blessed day, that is how it is. We cannot even go to work or to market because you've not gotten water to cook or to drink, and that is how it is.
This is Bongwini community in the East Mamprusi municipality with nearly 3,500 inhabitants and an estimated 400 households located off the Walewale-Nalerugu highway. Many people here are petty traders, farmers and gatherers of shared nuts who work the harsh land to earn a seasonal income. The people live without adequate water and are always forced to rely on unwholesome sources for various productive activities. Dry seasons are always crucial moments here, as the people need enough water for consumption with their livestock and for reconstruction of their rooms and settlements which were destroyed by the seasonal floods. The assemblyman of the community said access to potable drinking water is at a critical point.
It's very critical at this moment. This currently, funerals are being performed. Many people within the community and other places comes around to perform the funerals because of that there's too much pressure on the water in the community. People are building as of now. There's too much water situation or water challenge in the community here because of the women are crying, the men are crying, everybody's crying because of this water situation.
Due to strict gender roles and cultural norms, the responsibility of fetching water in this community rests heavily on teenage girls and older women. However, men and boys sometimes help when water supply becomes critical. Every day, our wives always spend a lot of time looking for water. Sometimes they fight each other and still don't get water to collect. We are thirsty here. After several petitions, Joy News learned the situation had caught the attention of the municipal authorities, and a contract was awarded through the Northern Development Authority to provide a water supply facility to tackle the menace. However, the NDA contractors who started work in June 2020 abandoned the project and vacated site immediately the election was over. Chairman of the Community Water Board is unhappy with the development. We are pleading. As you can see, over there stands our chief palace. There's no water and everyone is struggling. We travel far distance. We are thirsty. We don't have water to perform our prayers in the mosque. We were happy when the NDA contractor started this project, but our joy was short-lived, and we are therefore asking them to come back. The traditional head of the community is appealing to the Northern Development Authority contractors to return to site and complete the water project.
I'm worried too much because last they came and make a river for us, and the river, no water. They didn't do it very well. And this, they have water, we have a borehole here. That one, they haven't opened it. And I want to tell them that they should try their best and come and open it for us.
Elias Sutanko reporting for Joy News.
And Charles Saite is standing by with business. To stay with us.
Hello there, it's time for business. The president of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, Leslie Alex Aye, has opposed government partnership with Egypt Air for a national carrier. Egypt Air is reported to have been chosen as a preferred partner in the establishment of a new home-based carrier for the country. Joy Business gathers that the Aviation Ministry settled on the Cairo-based airline after an extensive scrutiny by the committee put together by government to search for a strategic partner. But speaking to Joy Business, Engineer Alex Aye warned that a conflict of interest could arise on the part of Egypt Air in this agreement.
I would say that if you're going into partnership, you don't go into partnership with your rival. You know, we can't have investors. And I think that the investors, they don't need to. The government really knows why it's talking to Egypt, etc. But I'd rather that we didn't talk to Egypt Air and have some investors, you know, so we can build. Because when decisions have to be made in the long run, especially when it comes to the hub, they would want it there in their country. And that way, it could affect your intentions. Yes.
So matters of conflict of interest could
exactly. You know, so we need to be able to look bring in the private sector, and that they'll be able to, because then it will be our dream, it will be our vision, and the decisions to do ABC will be based on what we think, and now they would also want to look into their interests. You see, that becomes a bit dicey. So I would prefer that we invited business people rather than a carrier. I think we have to provide an enabling environment for a carrier like Africa World Airlines. I mean, we need to talk to them and see what the vision is. And they need to open up and have many more people invest, because Africa, they're doing very well along the West Coast. I mean, I know some people prefer Africa World to other airlines. I mean, we need to encourage them. And we have the routes, we need to encourage them to build up the routes. They can do the distribution, along the West Coast for other people. I think we need to do that.
So you feel Africa World Airlines could be the best that we could opt for?
Africa World Airlines and any other people who could come up with ideas.
Now, the Canadian High Commissioner to Ghana, Kati Chaba, says that Canada will take advantage of economic opportunities in the country whilst helping Canadian investors to create the linkages they need to succeed here.
We have already seen a significant growth in trade with Ghana, which is now our fourth largest partner in terms of sub-Saharan Africa for trade and exports from Canada. So we want to build on those successes. We also see that there are lots of opportunities. So we want to find new opportunities and use the Trade Commissioner Service based at the High Commission here in Accra to look for those opportunities and to help put companies from Canada in touch with local partners. So we see opportunities, for example, in the areas of infrastructure, in clean technology, in agriculture and agri-processing and so on. And so we'll be looking for education as well. So we'll be looking for opportunities to match Canadian companies with potential interests here. And then thirdly, we're going to rely on partnerships that we already have in place.
That's great.
So we have the Canada-Ghana Chamber of Commerce that's based here in Accra and with whom I had the pleasure of meeting recently. We have a Canada-Africa Chamber of Business based in Canada, which is also an important partner. And then there's an alumni group of Ghanaians who have studied at Canadian universities, which is also a great way for us to put in place some of those people-to-people links that will help to encourage new trade and new investments. So I think with those three elements, we have a good strategy.
That's great. But let's also touch on the continental free trade, because trade, the single African market, so important. We're looking at excess of $3.4 trillion annually. How is Canada positioning itself to ensure that investment within Ghana, Canada, under the single market is futile?
So first, let me say that I think the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area is a huge success, and I congratulate all of the countries that participated, including Ghana and other African member states. I think also Ghana deserves a lot of praise for having offered to host the Secretariat, and I think that will make sure that Accra remains on the map of how this free trade area goes forward. So we are providing support to the Secretariat directly through funding that we are providing to the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, and we're looking for new ways to also support the Secretariat. And I have to say, as a country that relies very much on trade, and as a member of what used to be NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, and is now the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, we fully recognize that a trade arrangement like this is so important to allow for the free flow of goods and services. And for example, for those people who choose to invest in a country like Canada, which is relatively small with a population of just under 38 million, that actually gives access to a market of 500 million people by including the US and Mexico. So we see the same opportunities here with the African CFTA. I recognize that this is intended to be a free trade arrangement for the members, the sub-Saharan or the African countries that are members. At the same time, I also think that it offers opportunities for countries like Canada.
Now to the market. Prices of tomatoes remain very high in various markets in Kumasi in the Ashanti region, almost a week after transporters and importers suspended their industrial action. Though access to the vegetable has improved, retailers are hoping distributors reduce the prices. Love FM's Mona Lisa Frimpong has more in this report.
Tomatoes were in short supply for almost 2 weeks when transporters and importers embarked on strike to protest incessant highway robberies. Following the suspension of the strike, the supply has improved. Prices, however, remain high. At the Aja and Central markets, a wholesale box of tomatoes, which used to sell at 450 Ghana cedis, has more than doubled, selling at 1,000 Ghana cedis.
They say I'm going to buy the price in there. The
price of tomatoes now is constant. Neither has it reduced. We cannot sell it cheaply to our customers, else we will be running at a loss. There are trucks loaded with tomatoes coming to the markets lately. Though prices are high, the suppliers have no intent reducing the price for us.
Because about 2 weeks ago, now almost the 7,000, 8,000.
A box of tomatoes was sold to us for 650 Ghana cedis. This is better compared to the earlier prices.
And I said, so Mama or my police, this was just for no good money.
1 million. A bucket was sold at 100 cedis, but it is now sold at 75 cedis.
Price ne high there, but
we do not get the tomatoes to buy. However, we often find the rotten. We can't help but sell it expensively.
Obaya, a kinky seller, says she has been affected by the price increase.
Tomatoes in baby dinner in the dinner. That can in a concord the casino 90 ACD, VGD 90 ACD. They say a Pumakodu 18 CD.
Prices are constant. My customers complain when I give them a little pepper to add to their kinky. I tell them tomatoes are hard to come by.
The traders are hoping for a drop in the price of tomatoes. We tell our customers that the increase in the price of tomatoes is as a result of the robbery attacks on tomato traders. Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
And I'm Charles Ayete, ending business. Sports is up next.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime Time to bring you the second installment of sport. And Ghanaian footballer Benjamin Acheampong says he's been duped out of $1 million by a football club once, and he's determined to ensure that it doesn't happen again, especially by the same organization. The Ghanaian has been deprived of more than $1 million in a row with Egyptian giant Zamalek dating back to the year 2018. And despite the Court of Arbitration for Sport ordering the 5-time African champions to pay him a similar sum 2 months ago, he says he's yet to receive a cent. My colleague George Addo Jr. spoke to the BBC's Piers Edward for more details on this case.
All right, so Piers, thank you very much for your time, and we have been following so much of your work that you're doing, and we know that you have been keeping close tabs on this one. After all the shenanigans between Acheampong and his former club, Zamalek, the Court of Arbitration for Sport did rule that they had to pay him a sum of 1.1 million. And the key thing here, though, is that he hasn't received the money. I wanted you to take us through the twists from that point.
Absolutely. Well, to cut a very long story short, as you know, he joined Zamalek in 2017. He had his issues with the club as early as 2018, and in August 2018 he terminated his contract, which he maintains he was forced to do because the club did not pay him money. The club barred him from training, and the club did not register him for the forthcoming season. Some of the reasons. The club disputes some of those, but in December, the Court of Arbitration for Sport found in Achampong's favour and ordered Zamalek to pay him $1.1 million. And then we have the twist whereby Achampong's former agent, Nader El Sayed, a captain of Egypt at one point, no less, the man who won the 1998 Africa Cup of Nations, said that, or entered into an agreement with Zamalek whereby Achampong supposedly agreed to receive just $250,000. Zamalek wrote to FIFA sending them various documents which purported to show that El Sayed was still representing Achampong, which Achampong disputes. El Sayed has told the BBC he is still the player's agent. And the long and short of it is FIFA, when it meets on Thursday, is going to have to determine whether the documents it has received from Zamalek, which basically say that they've come to a deal with El Sayed, who is still representing Achampong, whether those documents are true. If they find them true, then obviously things will go in one direction. And if they find them untrue, then things will go in a very different direction.
But really, yes, how difficult would it be then for Achampong to prove that these documents are false?
Well, he maintains that he has not seen Nader El Sayed since 2018. So therefore, how could he have signed these documents to have made them true? I've had a conversation with officials in the Ghanaian embassy in Cairo, who met El Sayed after CAS gave its ruling, and they said that El Sayed was wanting an official Ghana embassy stamp on some of the documents bearing Achampong's name. The Ghanaian embassy officials refused to do so. El Sayed supposedly said that Achampong had coronavirus, which was why he could not attend. But ultimately, it's going to come down to handwriting experts to show whether or not these documents are true or false.
Just we know that he's been heavily backed by FIFA. In fact, we know quite a number of them are hoping to push this. What kind of support can they offer, and how telling will that be, when FIFA finally lands the ruling?
Well, I think they can offer invaluable support, really. As we know, FIFPro are the global Global Footballers Union. They've been helping Achampong along the way. They told him that when he was barred from training to take pictures to show that he did attend training. Achampong maintains he had a row with the then Zamalek club president Mortada Mansour, who threw a bottle of water at him. Zamalek says he didn't. Achampong has pictures of security guards outside Mortada Mansour's office at the time, saying that he could not leave the premises. So he was documenting things as he went along, and that is absolutely the key. And then from the financial point of view, it's important to state that FIFPro helped Achampong fund his appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Now, the problem for many sports people in Africa itself is they don't have the money to do so. It costs something like $50,000 roughly to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. A lot of athletes, a lot of sports people just don't have that money. So FIFPro helped him with that. And obviously CAS ruled in his favour. So it is a huge help to the player that FIFPro have helped him along the way.
Right, Piers, how bad are the consequences then for Zamalek if they fail to win or convince FIFA?
Exactly. If they fail to win, to convince FIFA that the documents are correct, Zamalek are very, very likely to receive a transfer ban. They will receive a transfer ban until they pay the player his money. Now, if they continue to not pay the player, there's also the possibility of either points deduction in their league or relegation in their league, which obviously would be a huge issue in Egypt, where they are, the most successful, or second most successful team in the country, and of course in Africa itself, having won 5 Champions League titles or African crowns. So the repercussions could be enormous. They just have to hope very much that their documents are indeed true and that they are found to be true by FIFA. But FIFA have got a bit of work to do to work out exactly who's telling the truth here. Is it the player? Is it the club?
Piers, I'm sure you've been following this, speaking to all the parties involved. Does it really look like Achampong is so determined to get this through?
He's absolutely determined to get us through, and I've spoken to various lawyers, some of them at FIFA, and they say many players simply have given up by now. They're not prepared to take on these clubs, even if they're owed something like, let's say, $800,000. Some of them just settle for $10,000 or $20,000 because they don't want the time it takes, which can be anything from 1 to 2 years. and they don't want to stump up the legal fees, which I said can run into tens of thousands of dollars. So what's different about this case is he's taking his fight all the way. He feels wronged, and he wants to do this to help other footballers in future who have similar issues and to show them that they should be fighting.
It will really be landmark if it does happen and goes in his favor. But tell me, you've been following these proceedings for some time, and of course cases of this nature, what kind of outcome should we expect?
I think we're going to have a delay tomorrow when FIFA meets, and I think I think it's going to take a few months for us to get a resolution on this case. I could be completely wrong, and FIFA might make its verdict tomorrow, and then it's all done. But I would imagine after what they got sent by Zamalek earlier this month, the 3 documents showing that Zamalek had come to this deal with El Sayed, it's up to FIFA to decide. But a quote in mind is the one from the FIFA pro lawyer Roy Vermeer, who says, just weeks after getting a ruling that he's fought for years, whereby he receives $1.1 million, why on earth would the player then accept $250,000 instead? And let's not forget as well that El Sayed stands to make $50,000, 20% of that $250,000, if the money goes to the player. So I think serious questions have to be asked, and it's clearly not in the player's interest to forego anything, in excess of, let's say, $750,000, $850,000. Why would you do that is the question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Piers, for your time. We'll see how this goes.
And that's it for sports. But in the Champions League, Atalanta and Real Madrid, it's goalless in that game, and Man City led Borussia Mönchengladbach. More later at 10:30 p.m. on FanZone. My name is Hans Mensando. Many thanks for your time.
It's been a great 2 hours for me. I hope it's been for you as well. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. If you do log on, this video also is on demand on our YouTube channel. My name is Gifty and Rapia. Do have a good evening. Let's see you tomorrow. Aisha Ibrahim is done.